Biden has done way worse for LGBTQ people than Trump. Please explain how someone under Biden would have it better than Trump. What are you talking about? The Obama administration played a key role in getting gay rights legalized in the United States. Trump has literally tried to make it harder and harder for trans people to even exist in the military or removing medical protections on them. What are you talking about? You're probably correct. Just saying it doesn't seem as black and white as Biden is more pro-LGBT than Trump with everything in context. Wrong. It is absolutely crystal clear, without a shadow of a doubt. The only possible way that you can come away thinking that Trump and Biden might be similar on gay marriage or LGBT issues more broadly is if you have brain rot and you just try to go back 10 years. People always play these games. It's like, who's going to be better for African Americans? Well, let's see. If we go back to 1994 and we look at the crime. Okay, how about right now? Because black people live, believe it or not, in the same temporal dimension as white people. Black people do not live in 1994. They live in 2020 with all the rest of us. And he did this against the advice of his generals too, because we'd already had research in the military about whether or not trans people were okay. And Biden was anti-LGBT. That's not what I'm saying. But what do you think is going to happen? Do you think Biden has talked about, I hate you. I hate you. Shane Miller, I hate you. I hate you. Okay, this is written by Joe Biden himself. Foreign Affairs op-ed. Why America Must Lead Again, Rescuing U.S. Foreign Policy After Trump. By nearly every measure, the credibility and influence of the United States and the world have diminished since President Barack Obama and I left office January of 20th, 2017. President Donald Trump has belittled, undermined, and in some cases abandoned U.S. allies and partners. He has turned on our own intelligence professionals, diplomats, and troops. He has emboldened our adversaries and squandered our leverage to contend with national security challenges from North Korea to Iran, from Syria to Afghanistan to Venezuela, with practically nothing to show for it. He's launched ill-advised trade wars against the United States' friends and foes alike that are hurting the American middle class. He has abdicated American leadership in mobilizing collective action to meet new threats, especially those unique to this country. Most profoundly, he has turned away from the democratic values that give strength to our nation and unify us as a people. Meanwhile, the global challenges facing the United States, from climate change and mass migration to technological disruption and infectious diseases, have grown more complex and more urgent, while the rapid advance of authoritarianism, nationalism, and illiberalism has undermined our ability to collectively meet them. Democracies, paralyzed by hyperpartisanship, hobbled by corruption, weighed down by extreme inequality, are having a harder time delivering for their people. Trust in democratic institutions is down. Fear of the other is up. And the international system that the United States so carefully constructed is coming apart at the seams. Trump and demagogues around the world are leaning into these forces for their own personal and political gain. The next U.S. president will have to address the world as it is in January of 2021, and picking up the pieces will be an enormous task. He or she will have to salvage our reputation, rebuild confidence in our leadership, and mobilize our country and our allies to rapidly meet new challenges. There will be no time to lose. Biden wrote this in March of April this year. As president, I will take immediate steps to renew U.S. democracy and alliances, protect the United States' economic future, and once more have America leading the world. This is not a moment for fear. This is the time to tap the strength and audacity that took us to victory in 2 world wars and brought down the Iron Curtain. The triumph of democracy and liberalism over fascism and autocracy created the free world, but this contest does not just define our past, it will define our future as well. Renewing democracy at home. First and foremost, we must repair and reinvigorate our own democracy, even as we strengthen the coalition of democracies that stand with us around the world. The United States' ability to be a force for progress in the world and to mobilize collective action starts at home. That's why I will remake our educational system so that a child's opportunity in life isn't determined by his or her zip code or race, reform the criminal justice system to eliminate inequitable disparities and end the epidemic of mass incarceration, restoring the Voting Rights Act to ensure that everyone can be heard, and return transparency and accountability to our government. But democracy is not just the foundation of American society, it is also the wellspring of our power. It strengthens and amplifies our leadership to keep us safe in the world. It is the engine of our ingenuity that drives our economic prosperity. It is the heart of who we are and how we see the world and how the world sees us. It allows us to self-correct and keep striving to reach our ideals over time. As a nation, we have to prove to the world that the United States is prepared to lead again, not just with the example of our power, but also with the power of our example. To that end, as president, I will take decisive steps to renew our core values. I will immediately reverse the Trump administration's cruel and senseless policies that separate parents from their children at our border, end Trump's detrimental asylum policies, terminate the travel ban, order a review of temporary protected status for vulnerable populations, and set our annual refugee admissions at 125,000, and seek to raise it over time, commensurate with our responsibility and our values. I will reaffirm the ban on torture and restore greater transparency in U.S. military operations, including policies instituted during the Obama-Biden administration to reduce civilian casualties. I will restore a government-wide focus on lifting up women and girls around the world, and I will ensure that the White House is once again the great defender, not the chief assailant, of the core pillars and institutions of our democratic values, from respecting freedom of the press to protecting and securing the sacred right to vote to upholding judicial independence. These changes are just a start, a day one down payment on our commitment to living up to the democratic values at home. I will enforce U.S. laws without targeting particular communities, violating due process, or tearing apart families, as Trump has done. I will secure our borders while ensuring the dignity of migrants and upholding their legal rights to seek asylum. I have released plans that outline these policies in detail and describe how the United States will focus on the root causes driving immigrants to our southwestern border. As vice president, I secured bipartisan support for a $750 million aid program to back up commitments from the leaders of El Salvador, Guatemala, and Honduras to take on the corruption, violence, and endemic poverty driving people to leave their homes there. Security improved and migration flows began. Security improved and migration flows began to decrease in countries such as El Salvador. As president, I will build on that initiative with a comprehensive four-year, $4 billion regional strategy that requires countries to contribute their own resources and undertake significant, concrete, verifiable reforms. I will also take steps to tackle the self-dealing, conflicts of interest, dark money, and rank corruption that are serving narrow, private, or foreign agendas and undermining our democracy. That starts by fighting for a constitutional amendment that completely eliminates private dollars from federal elections. This is never, ever, ever happening. I don't even know what this would look like. In addition, I will propose a law to strengthen prohibitions on foreign national or governments trying to influence U.S. federal, state, or local elections and direct a new independent agency, the Commissions on Federal Ethics, to ensure vigorous and unified enforcement of this and other anti-corruption laws. The lack of transparency in our campaign finance system, combined with extensive foreign money laundering, creates a significant vulnerability. We need to close the loopholes that are corrupting our democracy. This is basically just sounds like a big, campaign slogan. I'm guessing, is that what this entire argument is? Or entire article is. Biden has done way worse for LGBTQ people than Trump. Please explain how someone under Biden would have it better than Trump. What are you talking about? The Obama administration played a key role in getting gay rights legalized in the United States. Trump has literally tried to make it harder and harder for trans people to even exist in the military or removing medical protections on them. What are you talking about? You are wrong. You can look it up, Destiny. Wrong about what? You can't just say I'm wrong. What do you think I'm wrong about? Trump literally tried to ban trans people from serving in the military, unilaterally, on his own. What do you mean? Biden has been anti-same-sex marriage forever. The Biden-Obama administration literally pushed for gay marriage in the United States. What are you talking about? White House scrambled after the Biden gay marriage comments. Vice President Joe Biden really did get ahead of President Barack Obama on accepting gay marriage in 2012, and the White House really wasn't happy about that. Despite the two leaders' many attempts to claim otherwise. That's a story laid out in Joe Becker's new book, Voicing the Spring, which documents the past few years of successful efforts to expand the legalization of gay marriage, according to blah, blah, blah. Speculation that Biden's comments on Meet the Press in May 2012 were meant as a trial ballroom, Becker writes, came from people not privy to the chaos that erupted inside the West Wing after an email transcript of the interview landed in the inbox of the White House press team. But yeah, I'm pretty sure Biden, I don't think anybody would claim that Biden was anti-gay marriage. But, I'm sure at some point in his life he was, but the guy's fucking 920 years old. I stand corrected then. News sources such as the Young Turks covered this and had a different opinion, as did I. Obama said for his first years he believes marriage is between a man and a woman. In the initial part of his administration, Obama did say that, but eventually, I'm pretty sure one of the key things. God damn it, I'm gonna be able to find this. Obama, Department of Justice, don't enforce gay marriage. Was it under Sally Yates? Am I gonna be able to find this? What didn't the gay marriage ball? One of the big things that got it rolling was, I believe the DOJ said they weren't going to enforce bans on gay marriage anymore or something. They weren't going to hear or do anything about that. Why do you keep on referencing Obama as Biden's policy? Biden was put into his administration in order to appease Republicans. He's barely even leftist. Biden is running the most progressive campaign ever, and the reason why I'm referencing Obama is because Obama and Biden were president and vice president. What else should I reference? It might have been the Don't Ask, Don't Tell as well. President Obama declares, this is the Defense of Marriage Act, I think, unconstitutional. And then New York legalizes same-sex marriage. The Supreme Court finds Section 3 of Defense of Marriage Act unconstitutional. I'm pretty sure with this, I'm pretty sure this was when Obama told the DOJ, or basically said that we were going to enforce this. I'd have to go back and look at it, like 100%. But like, yeah, I know that the whole like legalization of gay marriage thing started pretty hardcore under Obama's administration. He might have came in as like a pro-marriage, whatever guy, but you're probably correct. Just saying it doesn't seem as black and white as Biden is more pro-LGBT than Trump with everything in context. Wrong. It is absolutely crystal clear, without a shadow of a fucking doubt. The only possible way that you can come away thinking that Trump and Biden might be similar on gay marriage or LGBT issues more broadly is if you have brain rot and you just try to go back 10 years. People always play these games. Like, who's going to be better for African Americans? Well, let's see. If we go back to 1994 and we look at the crime. Okay, how about right now? Because black people live, believe it or not, in the same temporal dimension as white people. Black people do not live in 1994. They live in 2020 with all the rest of us, okay? I don't care what the fuck somebody did in 1994. What I care about is what are they going to do in 2020 going forward? That's the important part, right? If you talk about like LGBT issues, Trump literally banned or tried to ban through executive order like trans people from the military. How can you possibly say that this is a guy that is pro-trans rights or pro-LGBT rights? Like, how the fuck could you possibly say that? Like, it's such a mind-numbingly stupid fucking statement to say. And he did this against the advice of his generals too, because we'd already had research in the military about whether or not trans people were okay. And Biden was anti-LGBT. That's not what I'm saying. What do you think is going to happen? Do you think Biden has talked about, I hate you. I hate you. Shane Miller, I hate you. I hate you. I just want you to know that I fucking hate you. Like, let's just look at the difference. You're mischaracterizing what I'm saying. Okay, dude. I don't care what somebody said in 2008, 2009. Right now, you had a president that literally tried to ban trans people from the military, and then you've got a guy running for president that's saying that, like, oh yeah, I'm cool with people transitioning, and I think there should be more funds available with transitioning, and I'm okay, and it, like, mentions trans people like a surprising amount. And as Biden's understanding of trans issues is actually, honestly, God, shocks the fuck out of me for being 90,000 years old, and to try to say that like Biden is going to be the same on trans issues. If for no other reason, because he's the leader of the Democratic Party, as a Republican head like Trump, who literally tried to ban trans people from the fucking military. And then I'm pretty sure they're trying to remove different, hold on, Trump administration, transgender provisions, healthcare, wasn't there? Transgender health protections reversed by Trump administration. Trump administration on Friday finalized a rule that would remove non-discrimination protections for LGBTQ people when it comes to healthcare and health insurance. How the fuck can you look at these people and go, oh yeah, well, they're probably the same? You're watching too much lefty shit, my dude. The Republicans and Democrats are hardcore partisan split on things like LGBTQ issues. Anybody telling you that these two sides are the exact same has just no literacy when it comes to the ongoing politics of the United States, and they spend way too much time pretending to read Marxist theory on fucking Twitter, okay? They're worlds apart in the differences between Biden and Trump when it comes to LGBTQ stuff, okay? That's all I'm saying. Love you. Destiny literally doesn't understand the difference between the empty platitudes of the Democratic difference and doing things that actually help. This is why JLP calls it the Democratic plantation, etc. Wow, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, space 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Good one. I told you I thought you were correct. I'm just saying Biden has lied so many times, and the last time he was in office, he certainly seemed anti-same-sex up until the very last second when public opinion... Even if that was true, even if he did change with public opinion, isn't that what we'd want a president to do? Is follow? I mean, like, ideally they'd get ahead of issues, but like, if the public opinion changes, it seems better than Trump, who's constantly pushing back against any type of progressive change. Okay. I'm just kidding, Shane Miller. I don't hate you. I love you. There is a broader context. You can't use, okay. Broader context can be used in two ways. Broader context can be used to give us a greater understanding of something or to obfuscate our understanding of something, okay? If I walk into a room and I beat the shit out of my girlfriend until she fucking dies, okay? I can get greater context around that situation to give more, like, elucidation for as to why I would do this, right? But it feels like what some people do, instead of trying to figure out, like, oh, well, let's get more context to figure out why, right? Instead, it becomes like this this game of trying to confuse things or add more information such that everything in a video game, such that everything becomes meaningless. Like, oh, well, he showed up and she said this and that, and then he did this and that, and then she said this and that, and blah, 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 blah. And at the end of the day, I don't know if what he did was wrong. There's so much context. Like, we need more context on this. Like, 2 years ago, she sent him mean Instagram DMs and blah, blah, blah. Like, we need more context. Like, it feels like people use context. It's so weird because normally I champion more context. Greater context is good because it gives us more understanding. But it feels like sometimes people use context to confuse or misdirect or to obfuscate, to just, I don't know. It's like, here is something. Oh God, there was such a great Reddit comment that summarized the shit that got copy pasted a million times. I'm not gonna be able to find this, but there is a massive black and white, no context needed partisan divide in Congress between Democrats and Republicans, period. There is no additional context, more subtext, more reading, blah, 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 blah. There is a massive partisan divide between a lot of very important issues. They are not the same. They do not represent the same issues. Biden in 2008 in a debate with Palin on gay marriage. Oh, and also, to be fair, when Biden was against gay marriage, he was in favor of civil unions, and not the bullshit civil unions that Republicans are in favor of. He was in favor of civil unions that would have extended all of the exact same rights, that would have conferred every advantage onto those civilly unionized people that gay marriage does. I do remember that as well, but okay.
But
Hold on. Wait, we already read this, Chimpo.
That tolerance also, no one would ever propose, not in a McCain-Palin administration, to do anything to prohibit, say, visitations in a hospital or contracts being signed, negotiated between parties. But I will tell Americans straight up that I don't support defining marriage as anything but between one man and one woman. And I think through nuances we could go round and round about what that actually means. But I mean as straight up with Americans as I can in my non-support for anything but a traditional definition of marriage.
Let's try to avoid nuance, Senator. Do you support gay marriage?
No, Barack Obama nor I support redefining from a civil side what constitutes marriage. We do not support that. That is basically a decision to be able to be left to the faith and people who practice their faith, the determination what you call it. The bottom line, though, is, and I'm glad to hear the governor, I take her at her word, obviously, that she thinks there should be no civil rights distinction, none whatsoever, between a committed gay couple and a committed heterosexual couple. If that's the case, we really don't have a difference.
Is that what you said?
Your question to him was whether he supported gay marriage, and my answer is the same as his, and it is that I do not.
Wonderful, you agree. On that note, let's move to foreign policy.
Okay.
Holy shit, these debates were so much different. In 2012, in the midst of what many expected to be a tough re-election campaign for the Obama White House, Biden surprised the political world during an appearance on Meet the Press by becoming the first national leader to publicly support same-sex marriage. At the time, the country was split on whether it should be legalized, and many privately supportive politicians were publicly avoiding the issue. Indeed, Biden's strong statement was seen as a gaffe at the time, primarily because of President Barack Obama's reluctance to tackle the issue. What is this? News reports from early 2000 reveal a senator reluctant to embrace gay marriage, even when his own relatively liberal state was going through its own debate on the issue. Sanders issued a statement applauding the Vermont Supreme Court for ruling that gay couples should be afforded the benefits of marriage, but not explicitly the right to marry in 1999. But the court sent the issue to the legislature to decide, and there Sanders initially refused to take a position. As a well-respected columnist for the Vermont Independent News Weekly, 7 Days wrote in 2000, sussing out Sanders' stance on gay marriage at the time was like pulling teeth from a rhinoceros. After the legislature passed a civil unions bill, Sanders expressed support for that, but he stopped short of pushing for gay marriage to be recognized. 6 years later, when the George W. Bush administration was pushing an amendment to the Constitution to define marriage as between one man and one woman, Sanders dismissed the move as divisive, but asked by a reporter whether Vermont should legalize same-sex marriage, Sanders said, "Not right now, not after what we went through. I believe the federal government should not be involved in overturning Massachusetts or any other state because I think the whole issue of marriage is a state issue," he said during the debate. But whatever, I don't care. We're not talking about Sanders anymore. Okay. We can be strong and smart at the same time. There's a big difference between large-scale, open-ended deployments of tens of thousands of American combat troops, which must end, and using a few hundred special forces soldiers and intelligence assets to support local partners against a common enemy. Those smaller-scale missions are sustainable militarily, economically, and politically, and they advance the national interest. Yet diplomacy should be the first instrument of American power. I'm proud of what American diplomacy achieved during the Obama-Biden administration, from driving global efforts to bring the Paris Climate Agreement into force, to leading the international response to end the Ebola outbreak in West Africa, to securing the landmark multilateral deal to stop Iran from obtaining nuclear weapons. Diplomacy is not just a series of handshakes and photo ops. It is building and tending relationships and working to identify areas of common interest while managing points of conflict. It requires discipline, a coherent policymaking process, and a team of experienced and empowered professionals. As president, I will elevate diplomacy as the United States' principal tool of foreign policy. I will reinvest in the diplomatic corps, which this administration has hollowed out, and put U.S. diplomacy back in the hands of genuine professionals. Diplomacy also requires credibility, and Trump has shattered ours. What are these linked to? Oh. And the conduct of foreign policy, and especially in times of crisis, a nation's word is its most valuable asset. By pulling out of treaty after treaty, reneging on policy after policy, walking away from U.S. responsibilities, and lying about matters big and small, Trump has bankrupted the United States' word in the world. He has also alienated the United States from the very democratic allies it needs most. He has taken a battering ram to the NATO alliance, treating it like an American-run protection racket. Our allies should do their fair share, which is why I'm proud of the commitments the Obama-Biden administration negotiated to ensure that NATO members increase their defense spending, a move Trump now claims credit for. But the alliance transcends dollars and cents. The U.S.'s commitment is sacred, not transactional. NATO is at the very heart of the United States' national security and is the bulwark of the liberal democratic ideal, an alliance of values which makes it far more durable, reliable, and powerful than partnerships built by coercion or cash. As president, I will do more than just restore our historic partnerships. I will lead the effort to reimagine them for the world we face today. The Kremlin fears a strong NATO, the most effective political military alliance in modern history. To counter Russian aggression, we must keep the alliance's military capability sharp while also expanding its capacity to take on non-traditional threats such as weaponized corruption, disinformation, and cyber theft. We must impose real costs on Russia for its violations of international norms and stand with Russian civil society, which has bravely stood up time and time again against President Vladimir Putin's kleptocratic authoritarian system. Working cooperatively with other nations that share our values and goals does not make the United States a chump. It makes us more secure and more successful. We amplify our own strength, extend our presence around the globe, and magnify our impact while sharing global responsibilities with willing partners. We need to fortify our collective capabilities with democratic friends beyond North America and Europe by reinvesting in our treaty alliances with Australia, Japan, and South Korea, and deepening partnerships from India to Indonesia to advance shared values in a region that will determine the United States' future. We need to sustain our ironclad commitment to Israel's security, and we need to do more to integrate our friends in Latin America and Africa into the broader network of democracies and to seize opportunities for cooperation in those regions. In order to regain the confidence of the world, we are going to have to prove that the United States says what it means and means what it says. This is especially important when it comes to the challenges that will define our time: climate change, the renewed threat of nuclear war, and disruptive technology. The United States must lead the world to take on the existential threat we face: climate change. I like that he kind of co-opted Bernie's language there. Existential threat, right? Didn't Bernie used to say that all the time? I feel like I've heard Biden say that more. If we don't get this right, nothing else will matter. I will make massive, urgent investments at home that put the United States on track to have a clean energy economy with net zero emissions by 2050. Equally important, because the United States creates only 15% of global emissions, I will leverage our economic and moral authority to push the world to determined actions. I like how the United States creates only 15% of global emissions, but I'm pretty sure we have, it must be what, 4% of the world's population? What is the world population now? Are we at 9 billion people? Wait, world population. Oh, wait, what percentage would we be at? Oh, we're at 8 billion people. How many U.S. citizens are there? Is it 330 million? No, yeah, we're like 4.2% of the world's population. Okay, no, we're good. Equally important, because the United States creates only 50% global, I will leverage our economic and moral authority to push the world to determine action. I will rejoin the Paris Climate Agreement on day one of a Biden administration and then convene a summit of the world's major carbon emitters, rallying nations to raise their ambitions and push progress further and faster. We will lock in enforceable commitments that will reduce emissions in global shipping and aviation, and we will pursue strong measures to make sure other nations can't undercut the United States economically as we meet our own commitments. That includes insisting that China, the world's largest emitter of carbon, stop subsidizing coal exports and outsourcing pollution to other countries by financing billions of dollars worth of dirty fossil fuel energy projects through its Belt and Road Initiative. On non-proliferation and nuclear security, the United States cannot be a credible voice while it is abandoning the deals it negotiated. From Iran to North Korea, Russia to Saudi Arabia, Trump has made the prospect of nuclear proliferation a new nuclear arms race, and even the use of nuclear weapons more likely. As president, I will renew our commitment to arms control for a new era. The historic Iran nuclear deal that the Obama-Biden administration negotiated blocked Iran from getting a nuclear weapon. Yet Trump rashly cast the deal aside, prompting Iran to restart its nuclear program to become more provocative, raising the risk of another disastrous war in the region. conclusion. I'm under no illusions that the Iranian regime, which is engaged in destabilizing behavior across the Middle East, brutally cracked down on protesters at home and unjustly detained Americans. There's a smart way to counter the threat that Iran poses to our interests and a self-defeating way, and Trump has chosen the latter. The recent killings of Qasem Soleimani, the commander of Iran's Quds Force, removed a dangerous actor, but also raised the prospect of an ever-escalating cycle of violence in the region, and it has prompted Tehran to jettison the nuclear limits established under the nuclear deal. Tehran must return to strict compliance with the deal. If it does so, I will rejoin the agreement and use our renewed commitment to diplomacy to work with our allies to strengthen and extend it while more effectively pushing back against Iran's other destabilizing activities. With North Korea, I will empower negotiators and jumpstart. Should I pause these while I do this? I feel like I'm silly reading this in the background. All right, I'm just going to start reading from here, and then we'll skip the section we already read before. Have been taking these essential steps to reinforce the democratic foundation of the United States and inspire actions in others. I will invite my fellow democratic leaders around the world to put strengthening democracy back on the global agenda. Today, democracy is under more pressure than at any other time since the 1930s. Freedom House has reported that of the 41 countries consistently ranked free from 1985 to 2005, 22 have registered net declines in freedom over the last 5 years. From Hong Kong to Sudan, Chile to Lebanon, citizens are once more reminding us of the common yearning for honest governments and the universal abhorrence of corruption. An insidious pandemic, corruption is feeling oppression, corroding human dignity. Wait, an insidious pandemic, corruption. Wait, what is this sentence saying? I understand. Okay. An insidious pandemic, corruption is feeling oppression, corroding human dignity, and equipping authoritarian leaders with a powerful tool to divide and weaken democracies across the world. Yet when the world's democracies look to the United States to stand for the values that unite the country to truly lead the free world, Trump seems to be on the other team, taking the world of autocrats while showing disdain for Democrats. By presiding over the most corrupt administration in modern American history, he's given license to kleptocrats everywhere. During my first year in office, the United States will organize and host a global summit for democracy to renew the spirit and shared purpose of the nations of the free world. We'll bring together the world's democracies to strengthen our democratic institutions, honestly confront nations that are backsliding, and forge a common agenda. Building on the successful model instituted during the Obama-Biden administration with the Nuclear Security Summit, the U.S. will prioritize results by galvanizing significant new country commitments in 3 areas: fighting corruption, defending against authoritarianism, and advancing human rights in their own nations and abroad. As a summit commitment of the United States, I will issue a presidential policy directive that establishes combating corruption as a core national security interest and democratic responsibility, and I will lead efforts internationally to bring transparency to the global financial system, go after illicit tax havens, seize stolen assets, and make it more difficult for leaders who steal from their people to hide behind anonymous front companies. The Summit for Democracy will also include civil society organizations from around the world that stand on the front lines in defense of democracy. And the Summit members will issue a call to action for the private sector, including technology companies and social media giants, which must recognize their responsibilities and overwhelming interest in preserving democratic societies, protecting free speech. At the same time, free speech cannot serve as a license for technology and social media companies to facilitate the spread of malicious lies. Those companies must act to ensure that their tools and platforms are not empowering the surveillance state, gutting privacy, facilitating repression in China and elsewhere, spreading hate and misinformation, spurring people to violence, or remaining susceptible to other misuse. Second, my administration will equip Americans to succeed in the global economy with a foreign policy for the middle class. To win the competition for the future against China or anyone else, the United States must sharpen its innovative edge and unite the economic might of democracies around the world to counter abusive economic practices and reduce inequality. Economic security is national security. Our trade policy has to start at home by strengthening our greatest asset, our middle class, making sure that everyone can share in the success of the country no matter one's race, gender, zip code, religion, sexual orientation, or disability. That will require enormous investments in our infrastructure, broadband, highways, rail, and energy grid, the energy grid, smart cities, and in education. We must give every student the skills necessary to obtain a good 21st century job. Make sure every American has access to quality. Dude, did I ever tell you guys about my plan for Fast City? Oh my God. I wish I could make this so much. I want there to be a Fast City. And in Fast City, everything is fucking fast. When you push the button in the elevator, that shit drops and it goes up fast, okay? I want there to be like outside the balconies, there are giant like inflatable things like on the ground so that when I want to go from the 3rd floor to the bottom, I just jump and I just boom, and then get up and go. And I want there to be like airports where not the conveyor belts, what are the escalators, like the walkways that have the automated thing? They don't escalate you or whatever. Those things need to go like 15 miles an hour. Like you get on there and it like accelerates. Yeah, I want fireman poles in every fucking building. I I just want there to be like one city. This is not a friendly city for slow, old, disabled, whatever. This is only for the peak fast movers in society, okay? It is optimized for fast movers, okay? People that can just fucking go, all right? I think that shit would be, this sounds like it would be the most disabled person. It would be unfriendly towards the mobility impaired. It would be, I'm sorry. Miss speakers would be welcome though. We must give every student the skills necessary to obtain a good 21st century job, make sure every single American has access to quality, affordable health care, raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour, and lead the clean economy revolution to create 10 million good new jobs, including union jobs in the United States. I will make investments in research and development a cornerstone of my presidency so that the United States is leading the charge in innovation. There's no reason we should be falling behind China or anyone else when it comes to clean energy, quantum computing, artificial intelligence, 5G, high-speed rail, or the race to end cancer as we know it. We have the greatest research universities in the world. We have a strong tradition of the rule of law, and most importantly, we have an extraordinary population of workers and innovators who have never let our country down. I think I rant about this every now and then. Did you know that we were the largest particle accelerator in the world? It's this dumbass fucking LHC, but we were going to build a bigger one. Was it this? We were going to build a huge one. This is going to blow that shit-ass cuck Euro accelerator out of the water, and we canceled it. I think we even built part of it. Does a bigger accelerator matter? Does the size matter that much? Yes. The size of an accelerator is very important because you need a bigger accelerator to get things up to speed, no? What reason did they give for canceling it? Because we're in America. We don't care about science. As a physicist, I don't even think spending even more. Why do you use even twice here? As a physicist, you should have taken more fucking English classes. As a physicist, I don't even think spending even more money on accelerator is a good idea. This is why we have prereqs. I'm just kidding. I'm sorry. I'm fucking with you a little bit. You're probably right. There's probably better, like, I am German, you bully. Oh, well then fuck you, you little fucking Euro piece of shit motherfucker. But you're probably right. Spending more money, you could probably spend that money elsewhere and get greater returns in scientific achievement or advancement. But still. A foreign policy for the middle class will also make sure the rules of the international economy are not rigged against the United States, because when American businesses compete on a fair playing field, they win. I believe in fair trade. More than 95% of the world's population lives beyond our borders. We want to tap those markets. We need to be able to build the very best in the United States and sell the very best around the world. That means taking down trade barriers that penalize Americans and resisting a dangerous global slide towards protectionism. That's what happened a century ago after World War I, and it exacerbated the Great Depression and helped lead to World War II. The wrong things to do is to put our heads in the sand and say no more trade deals. Countries will trade with or without the United States. The question is, who writes the rules that govern the trade? Who will make sure they protect workers, the environment, transparency, and middle-class wages? The United States, not China, should be leading that effort. As president, I will not enter into any new trade agreement until we have invested in Americans and equipped them to succeed in the global economy. And I will not negotiate new deals without having labor and environmental leaders at the table in a meaningful way and without including strong enforcement provisions to hold our partners to the deals they sign. Labor and environmental leaders, by the way, were at the table when it came to negotiating the TPP, but I'm sure Biden knows that. China represents a special challenge. I've spent many hours with its leaders and I understand what we're up against. China's playing the long game by extending its global reach, promoting its own political model, and investing in the technologies of the future. Meanwhile, Trump has designated imports from the United States' closest allies, from Canada to the European Union, as national security threats in order to impose damaging and reckless tariffs. By cutting us off from the economic cloud of our partners, Trump has kneecapped our economy's capacity to take on the real economic threat. That's good. I'm glad he acknowledges this. The United States does need to get tough with China. If China has its way, it will keep robbing the United States and American companies of their technology and intellectual property. It will also keep using subsidies to give its state-owned enterprises an unfair advantage and a leg up on dominating the technologies and industries of the future. The most effective way to meet that challenge is to build a united front of U.S. allies and partners to confront China's abusive behaviors and human rights violations, even as we seek to cooperate with Beijing on issues where our interests converge, such as climate change, non-proliferation, and global health security. On its own, the United States represents about a quarter of global GDP. When we join together with fellow democracies, our strength more than doubles. China can't afford to ignore more than half of the global economy. That gives us substantial leverage to shape the rules of the road on everything from the environment to labor, trade, technology, and transparency, so they continue to reflect democratic interests and values. Look at that. Biden is an omni-liberal, a proud Destiny fan. Good job, Biden. Heard someone on NPR mention you as a political streamer that engages in high-level political topics with their fan base. Mentioned how you were an example of how important it is to engage with political shit. Also mentioned you as Destiny, which was bitter because he also mentioned a sound packet by his full name. Nice. Tell me why I, as a black trans gay person, how it's oppressive to prevent trans people from joining the military. Isn't that protecting us from harm? You know what, dude? You're right. And based on that last thing you just said, I'm going to ban you to protect you from harm in my chat, as a chat that is full of racist, transphobic, and homophobic people. The Biden foreign policy agenda will place the U.S. back at the head of the table in a position to work with its allies and partners to mobilize collective action on global threats. The world does not organize itself. For 70 years, the U.S., under Democratic and Republican presidents, played a leading role in writing the rules, forging the agreements, and making the institutions that guide relations among nations and advance collective security and prosperity until Trump. If we continue his abdication of that responsibility, then one of two things will happen. Either someone will take the U.S.'s place, but not in a way that advances our interests and values, or no one will, and chaos will ensue. Fuck. Either way, that's not good for America. American leadership is infallible. We have made missteps and mistakes. Too often we've relied solely on the might of our military instead of drawing on our full array of strengths. Trump's disastrous foreign policy record reminds us every day of the dangers of an unbalanced and incoherent approach, and one that defunds and denigrates the role of diplomacy. I will never hesitate to protect the American people, including when necessary by using force. All the roles the President of the United States must fulfill, none is more consequential than that of Commander-in-Chief. The U.S. is the strongest military in the world, and as president, I will ensure that it stays that way, making the investment necessary to equip our troops to challenge. But the use of force should be the last word, not the first. It is past time to end the forever wars, which have cost the United States untold blood and treasure. As I have long argued, we should bring the vast majority of our troops home from the wars in Afghanistan and the Middle East and narrowly define our mission as defeating Al-Qaeda and the Islamic State. This is good. Narrowly define our mission. Having a defined mission objective is good. War on terror, dumb. We should also end our support for the Saudi-led war in Yemen. Big meme. I'm pretty sure Obama was bombing dudes in Yemen. I think that was happening even under Obama, right? We must maintain our focus on... When did the... Why do I feel like... How long has this Yemen civil war shit been going on for? Hold on, I need to... From 2014 to present. I'm pretty sure the Obama administration was involved in drone strikes in Yemen. Earlier when that happened, I'm pretty sure. But... if he recognizes that this should change, that's good, hopefully. We must maintain our focus on counterterrorism around the world and at home, but staying entrenched in unwinnable conflicts drains our... Why did Obama help the Saudis in that civil war? If I had to guess without knowing, my guess is going to be that any sort of regime that exists in Yemen that's not loyal to the Saudis is probably going to have a lot of influence from Iran. And I'm guessing Saudi doesn't want a country on the Saudi's border just sitting there lobbing bombs. That's probably why, right? Oh, that guy mentioned Bahrain and shit. Anytime you talk about a country, it's always good to just, I do this every time, and it's actually helped me so much to be able to put countries on a map, is anytime you read anything about anything ever, just like look it up on a map. It helps so much to get things in your head. Also, when you read about like foreign policy and stuff, sometimes a lot of things like make more sense if you just see them on a map. Like things begin to make sense, or you start to understand things better, like just by seeing like where the countries are. Yeah. But yeah, Yemen chills down here. Bahrain or whatever was the one country that guy kept referring to for the peace deals or whatever. Bahrain and the UAE with Israel over here and their shit. Okay. We must maintain our focus on counterterrorism in the world and at home, but staying entrenched in unwinnable conflicts drains our capacity to lead on other issues that require attention. It prevents us from building other instruments of American power. We can be strong and smart at the same time. There's a big difference between large-scale, open-ended deployments of tens of thousands of American troops, which must stand using a few hundred special... Okay, we read this. Okay. And now we are... With North Korea, I will empower our negotiators and jumpstart a sustained, coordinated campaign with our allies and others, including China, to advance our shared objective of a denuclearized North Korea. I will also pursue an extension of the New START Treaty, an anchor of strategic stability between the U.S. and Russia, and use that as a foundation for new arms control arrangements. I will take other steps to demonstrate our commitment to reducing the role of nuclear weapons. As I said in 2017, I believe the sole purpose of the U.S. nuclear arsenal should be deterring, and if necessary, retaliating against a nuclear attack. As president, I will work to put that belief into practice in consultation with the U.S. military and U.S. allies. When it comes to technologies of the future, such as 5G and artificial intelligence, other nations are devoting national resources to dominating their development and determining how they are used. The U.S. needs to do more to ensure that those technologies are used to promote greater democracy and shared prosperity, not to curb freedom and opportunity at home or abroad. For example, the Biden administration will join together with the U.S.'s Democratic allies to develop secure, private sector-led 5G networks that do not leave any community, rural or low income, behind. As new technologies reshape our economy and society, we must ensure that these engines of progress are bounded by laws and ethics, as we have done at previous technological turning points in history, and avoid a race to the bottom where the rules of the digital age are written by China and Russia. It's time for the United States to lead in forging a technological future that enables democratic societies to thrive and prosperity to be shared broadly. These are ambitious goals, and none of them can be reached without the United States, flanked by fellow democracies leading the way. We are facing adversaries, both externally and internally, hoping to exploit the fissures in our society, undermine our democracy, break up our alliances, and bring about the return of an international system where might determines right. The answer to this threat is more openness, not less, more friendships, more cooperation, more alliances, more democracy. Putin wants to tell himself, and anyone else who can dupe into believing him, that the liberal idea is obsolete. But he does so because he's afraid of its power. No army on earth can match the way the electric idea of liberty passes freely from person to person, jumps borders, transcends languages and cultures, and supercharges communities of ordinary citizens into activists and organizers and change agents. We must once more harness that power and rally the free world to meet the challenges facing the world today. It falls to the United States to lead the way. No other nation has that capacity. No other nation is built on that idea. We have to champion liberty and democracy, reclaim our credibility, and look with unrelenting optimism and determination toward our future. Remember to hit that like and subscribe, and don't forget the notification bell so that my videos show up right in your feed.
You gnome fuck! You gnome fuck! You gnome fuck! You gnome fuck! You gnome fuck!
Nice.